I wanna feel alive. I wanna touch the sky. I wanna know your name. I hope this won't remain. I wanna touch your skin. I wanna know you again. I wanna feel your light. I hope we last the night.
So today is a bit of a special day. I'm going to try a new art supply. I've been wanting to try Apoxie Clay for a long time. It's Epoxy Clay, so it's the Epoxy Clay from Aves. Aves? I don't know how you pronounce that brand. It's a clay that is pretty expensive. So what makes this clay special is that it works like a binding agent, so it is sort of glue, so to speak, so you can work directly onto stuff that you want and it's going to glue on top of it, which in my case is really interesting since I am mostly interested in growth on top of human-made objects. So this clay just on the paper sounds perfect to me. And the other thing that is really interesting is that it's air dry, which means I don't have to bake it. Again, if you're working on objects, that's just perfect. I cannot tell you how much headaches I can have on sculptures with polymer clay, where I want to work on specific objects and it just you cannot put that object in the oven, so you have to figure out a way to like take the shape, pre-bake, hope that the shape doesn't change. It's just massive headache. I mean, it's doable, I've done it. I did do penguins on a plastic bottle, so I can do it, but it's just so much struggle. So this is the second thing that I love about it. And the third thing is that apparently it is much more harder than polymer clay, much more durable, much more stronger, yeah, the strength is better. So it acts like a glue, it's air dry, and it's super strong. Of course, it's not colored. If you want to add or work with colors, you have to paint afterwards. But since I've been really diving into paint this year with the watercolors, paint is not something I'm as impressed by, if that makes sense. And the other thing, that it might seem like something not good, so to speak, to use a clay that is not colored, but if you are doing fine art sculptures, it's actually a good thing. So I'm not too sure about the pigments used in most polymer clay brands. I'm pretty sure it's not that great, whereas when I use this, I can use high quality fine art acrylic paint or oil paint with very good pigment, and I'm going to be able to know which ones are really light fast. So all in all, I'm like super excited. If this works as good as I hope it will, I'm sure I might switch completely. I don't know yet. But for now, I want to try it out, and I have this plastic it's kind of like a Tupperware. It's not Tupperware. It used to be my boyfriend's. I trashed it. He doesn't know that, but I mean, he didn't use it anymore. We don't use plastic boxes nowadays anymore, because why? I don't know. We just stopped using them. Basically, we just use our dishes, and then we put it in one plate and we put another plate on top, and that's pretty much it. You don't really need boxes. Anyway, so I used this one to mix some acrylic paint, and so, well, I trashed it, as you can see. So I was thinking, okay, then it kind of looks already like one of my sculptures, and I've been wanting to put on growth. So I'm going to just kind of try and make a few ones. Now, I've read a bit about the Apoxie Clay, and I've read that it's super sticky, which, again, I'm really excited about that, but it also means that you might get issues if you use it on with tools or with your hands. So the first thing I got as an advice was to buy some latex gloves. And the thing with latex gloves is that even when you sculpt, it's actually pretty good because then you avoid having fingerprints all over, so it's not something that makes no sense as a sculpt. And another thing that I bought is a silicone mat. So I have some of these for cooking. I'm kind of trying to be zero waste. I just have always such a hard time saying it. Zero waste. Struggling. Yeah, so I've been having those to make cookies and cakes and stuff like that, and I never use parchment paper anymore. And I've read that Apoxie Clay doesn't stick to silicone. This is a good thing to work on, so I just bought one. I mean, it's not very expensive. I took a black one because my soul is dark. I don't know why. I think probably the colors that I had, they were not many colors, so I don't know. And I also read to have some Vaseline oil, Vaseline, I don't know how you pronounce it, or some mineral oil, because again, Apoxie Clay is super sticky, and so you want to sometimes dip your tools in it or your hands, so yeah. And for the mixing, you really need the gloves. Otherwise you get some on your fingernails apparently, or your skin, and it just doesn't come off. The specificity of Apoxie Clay, it's a bit like most molding materials. You have two compounds, and you have to mix them together. And then I know you have about 2 hours, 2 hours time to sculpt until it dries. Knowing that it is most sticky from what I read, the 35 first minutes. Permanent, self-hardening, waterproof. Okay, so I'm going to mix those two. God, I'm so excited. So the one is really sticky and the other one not so much. I didn't have any kind of, do they say something? I'm going to read it. So Apoxie Clay is a unique two-part clay-like adhesive that combines features and benefits of sculpting clay with the adhesive power of epoxy, offering enhanced detail properties, plasticity, accuracy, and handling features to make this clay superior for modeling. God, really, that's brand romance for you. So, to make this clay superior for modeling, assemblage art, stamping impressions, and more. It is easy to add sculpted details to nearly any clean surface. Adheres to porcelain, ceramic, metal, vinyl kits, polymers, fiberglass, foam, hard plastics, wood, etc. Compatible with all types of texture and sculpting tools. Accepts paints, stains, and more for a variety of finishing options. Okay. So, nothing else. Oh yeah, directions for use. That's the one. Wear disposable gloves to measure equal parts of A and B. Always retrieve parts A and B with different tools. Well, I did with my fingers, so. Mix and knead together for 2 minutes until thoroughly combined and a uniform color is achieved. So I think by the time I've read everything, it's been 2 minutes. Note, incomplete mixing will give poor results, which makes sense, of course. Allow mixed product to rest 5 minutes for better handling. Apoxie Clay is ready to use. Working time is 1 to 3 hours. Yeah, it always depends on the humidity of the room and stuff like that. Shape as desired, smooth or texture with a wet finger. What? A wet finger? So water works as well. Smooth or texture with a wet finger, brush, Q-tip or sculpting tool. Self-hardens. 24-hour full cure to rock-hard semi-gloss finish. Clean up. Soap and water. Yeah. Or safety solvent from Aves, but that's brand romance again. Finish as desired. Paint wet or dry. Outdoor and marine quality. freeze thaw stable. Okay. God, it sounds just too good to be true, so let's not get ahead of ourselves. So I feel already like a bit less elastic than polymer clay. So I think this is thoroughly mixed. I like the smell. It reminds me of, you know, the squishy rubbers that you might have in drawing classes. That kind of feels like this. It smells like that. I wonder how bad it is for the environment, to be honest. I imagine it's not great. Okay, 30 minutes sticky and most adhesive. 1-2 hours easy to work with. 2-3 hours setting up formable detail. Okay, so 5 minutes. I need my phone to just check on the time. Okay, so the 5 minutes have passed, and now I'm going to just give it a first try, and then I'm going to show a recording of a close-up on how the clay behaves, basically. So I'm going to go with simple shapes. I'm going to just do my usual curls. First off, I really want to like fix those two together. Since this is supposed to work as clay, I want to do that. I'm just going to make something here and then push this on top like so. Well, we'll see how good that holds. So the first thing I see is that it's a lot less elastic than polymer clay. So the clay is pretty soft, which, I mean, honestly it's going to depend how you like your clay. Some people, they love really hard clay because then you don't have to be as careful. This clay is very soft, which I don't mind. I'm used to softer clay, and I've been sculpting for over 10 years now, so I can adjust to softness, so to speak. Just like so. I think it looks nice. I'm going to just add this here. It doesn't stick to my tools at all, I was a bit afraid of that. I've read that it's so sticky that I was afraid I would like end up with clay all over my tools. And I like my tools. Some of them are handmade, so I was like, that doesn't sound great. I was also afraid that the apparent unelasticity of it is well, but so far it looks nice. I've read that it is a very strong clay. So how thin? So I just need to see how breakable it is. I'm going to make a very long, rather thin kind of snake, which I'm just going to leave aside and then just see how breakable it is. I will know tomorrow. So if you look up close, there are tiny ridges that appear. So I have to see how that goes, if it's any kind of concern once it's done or not. So just from the sense of it right now, it behaves a lot like a soft polymer clay. So it's easy to work with so far. I cannot say that I find it any difficult. The only difficulty I have is with the gloves. So there's that. And of course there's no color for me. That's weird. I think they have other colors. I'm pretty sure I've seen black. And again, I'm not too worried. You can always paint after. I think, to be honest, with my tendency to work so much with gradients, it might actually be really interesting for me to paint things. Another thing that I love is there's no conditioning or no prior mixing. Polymer clay does need some kind of conditioning, but more importantly, you do need to mix your colors if you work in colors. And sometimes for a small sculpture, you can take 1 or 2 hours just to mix your colors and condition them all. So I think if you are starting with a very neutral clay and then paint it, it might actually be worth it also in terms of effort.
but time is never on our side. Time is never on.
So I've been working for exactly 1 hour now, and honestly I don't really see a difference in terms of hardness. So the clay is super agreeable to work with. I've made also some tiny brushes with some wire, and it's so nice. So nice to work in wire. Polymer clay just doesn't stick on wire at all. So it's just so fiddly, you know, to get nice. It's just such a struggle, to be honest, and it's nice, it's easy, I love it. Honestly, I think I'm really enjoying it. And yeah, and it's still workable, so I'm really happy. At some point I was a bit afraid that I had prepared too much and, you know, was going to stress out and like, it's such expensive clay and you've ruined it and you're not going to be able to use it. And no, actually I will be able to use it, so that's really nice. So first try with the Apoxie Clay was conclusive. I had loads of fun. I sculpted for about 2 hours. I don't have any clay left. I used up all the clay that I prepared. For the last half hour, kind of reached the sweet point of the clay, so it was still very malleable, but it was much harder than in the beginning when it's really soft, and so it's really interesting to work on textures. So this is something interesting to keep in mind when working on bigger sculptures, as to not drive yourself nuts in the beginning to add textures right away, but just to wait a bit until it hards and then add textures. So now I have to be patient until tomorrow and just see how the clay reacts. So 24 hours later, and it is cured or dry. I don't really know how you would say for that. And it's pretty strong, as you can see. I did use some clay in between the two plastic parts, and yeah, I mean, I'm afraid to test it too much out because I'm pretty sure everything can break, but just like this, it's sturdy enough for me. I did try, you know, the stick, so I didn't wait for you to try it, but it does break. However, it is very strong, so it's not flexible at all. If I push around, it doesn't move at all. So I think this is also why it's considered to be very strong clay once it's cured. However, it is breakable, so this is a very tiny stick, and if I pressure on the outside and in the middle with my fingers, it can break. I haven't really bothered making it sturdy, but I wanted to see how easily it was to break it, and it's fairly easy to break. This means I still need to be careful shipping my work, so I still need to be a bit careful to properly wrap it so it doesn't have a chance to break. So this is a bit disappointing to me, although to be honest I would need to make a proper strength test, and I'm probably going to, comparing it to how polymer clay breaks, because if you do that to polymer clay it breaks as easily, maybe more easily. I don't know, I would need to really test it out. If you put wire in it, how breakable it is or how bendable, I don't know that either. So I feel like the strength department still needs to be kind of tried out. But other than that, I'm pretty happy. I did paint it a bit, and this is also something I was slightly worried about. When you paint on polymer clay, and if you dilute the acrylic paint too much, so if you add too much water to it, and by too much I mean just a little, then it doesn't really stick to the polymer clay. I feel like polymer clay behaves very much like a plastic, so acrylic paint undiluted works fine, but if you just like rinse your brush and then use some acrylic, and so the acrylic will be a little bit diluted, it just doesn't work on polymer clay. However, and this is reassuring, on epoxy clay it works fine. All in all, the pros of this clay: clearly you can work on whatever you want. It works like a glue, no baking needed. It's easy to work with, it's easy to paint. The cons, obviously, colors are very limited, so you have to paint. Is there any other con? Price. Clearly, price. So for now I'm still pretty excited about that product. I'm really happy that I finally used it, because I have many ideas using objects that are impossible to bake. And so I'm definitely going to use epoxy clay on that. I'm probably not going to stop using polymer clay, at least not right away, because I still have plenty at home. And also I've been thinking of like mixing the two. Would I recommend epoxy clay? If you are an experienced sculptor, a more advanced sculptor, if you want to work on bigger things that just don't go into your oven, which is pretty fast to be honest, then yes, I would recommend this clay. It's a bit on the more expensive side, but it's still very fun to use and very agreeable to use. However, if you're just sculpting for fun, then no, and I would also not recommend it if what you like with polymer clay is you have plenty of techniques. You have the translucent factor, which is really nice. You can do canes, you can do so many very specific techniques to polymer clay that you cannot do with this. This is if you like to model, if you like to sculpt, you know, in that sense it's great. But if you like polymer clay techniques, then not so much. I'm going to leave a link to epoxy clay in the description box below if you're interested. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know if you like this kind of review, pretty honest review I guess. And also let me know if you've ever tried Apoxie Sculpt, and maybe you have some tips to give me, because I'm a newbie. I'm really a newbie with that specific medium. I would also like to thank all my patrons over on Patreon for supporting me each month. So thank you guys. I have no words. Thanks. Thank you. You're awesome. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up, maybe subscribe, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!